And the name is on the air that takes it in. When I speak, but stand beside the rain. Listen to the thunder shout.
Folks, welcome back inside the Parisi Palace, high above 2919 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, coming to you live on Power Talk. Please go to our website, powertalk.live. Download our free app and stream all of our live local programming, including yours truly, the Jake Feinberg Show. And we can't thank you enough for making us part of your day today. And it is my honor to bring in a woman who has made a prolific career in multimedia journalism, and also deeply connected to a tribal band known as the Grateful Dead. And I have a lot to talk with her about. Jerilyn Lee Brandelius, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Well, thank you, Jake. It's nice to be here.
It is so nice to connect with you, my friend. It is truly an honor. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit. I communicated briefly with John Perry Barlow this morning, and I just would hope, could you give the fans out there an update on how John's doing?
He's doing great. I was with him last night for a few hours, and the day before for a few hours I brought his kittens over to visit him. And he's got these 2 7-month-old kittens that I call the Barlow herd. And so, yeah, his current herd is a couple of kittens. They're adorable. Their names are Particle and Wave. And they're great little cats, and they went to visit him at the hospital, and then he was discharged yesterday to the next step of his recovery, which is this fantastic place in San Francisco. And he's going to be there getting himself back on his feet, and he's doing great. Barlow's back. It was kind of scary there for a while, as it has been a lot over the last year and a half. It's been since April of 2015 when this little particular adventure started. So it's been a really, talk about a long, strange trip, man. I mean, this was one for the books, I'm telling you. So, but Barlow is a real cowboy, and he has recovered like a champ every time that he's faced these incredible obstacles, and he continues to do so. He's amazing.
Are you? Believe me. What's amazing to me is I did an interview with him, somewhat cosmic interview, in February of 2015, before the onset of all this stuff, and I wanted you to talk about, in your mind, what still is driving him. In your mind, what does he wake up and still feel alive about every day? How has he been able to overcome all this adversity, basically like assuming that he's over the hump, then he's brought back into it? What keeps him going?
Well, let's see. He's got 3 beautiful daughters. One time he told me he was waiting to meet his allies. So I think that's probably a pretty big motivator right there, the idea that he might have grandchildren that would take his side against the girls,
I dig.
I think that's probably something a lot of men wish for, my brother included, So, I think there's a lot of things that keep Barlow going. He has an incredible love for life and people, and, why leave? It's a pretty interesting world we live in. Why would he want to go anywhere? He wants to stick around. I think that's my opinion. You'll have to ask Barlow. I can't speak for anybody but myself. I know that that's what keeps me going, is my family and the Grateful Dead scene and the fans and the people that love my book and all of that. I have a liver transplant. I almost died. Barlow likes having me around because he looks at me as an incredible survivor. I've overcome a lot of obstacles in my life. I had polio when I was 8, right when the vaccine came out. They didn't have it in my state, so I didn't get it. I have all kinds of things to campaign about because of the life that I've lived in this particular time in our history in America. And, being part of the psychedelic fabric of our lives and how we changed the world. We did change the world, and we continue to do so, so I'm really happy that I got to stick around. He told me that when he asked me to be around, and when he first got better in August, and when he really got better after all the stuff he went through from April up until that point, he said, well, I said, I'm pretty disabled. I don't know what I can do to help you. And he said, well, that's the thing. He said, 5 years ago, I thought I was going to your funeral next, And he says, I look at you and you're so healthy and you look so good. And, I tell him, well, it's a lot of work, man. It's really not easy. It's a lot of work. And, so that's what we do. We work. It's not easy. It's not comfortable. It's really painful to be old and haven't been a party animal and, have now it's like arthritis and gout. And
no, I mean, you're just, it's so great to talk to Jerilyn right now. I mean, it's
so crazy, man.
Well, thank you.
So crazy. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm 68 years old now, so, I'm doing something right now that I'm so excited about. It's called The Wheel, which I think of it as the well, which was a very famous way that the whole internet and all that kind of stuff connected all of us back in the 80s. It's the well with an H. It's called The Wheel, and it's our place in cyberspace. It's a well for the 21st century. Technology has advanced to the point where I was able to put my book online for free on a website, and it's interactive. People can comment on every page. My beloved book is a living thing with new content and more being added constantly. And we're going to use it as a catalyst to start this thing called The Wheel, to connect all of us and bring us all into one central place and bring the information on the band into one central place and the music and all that. And we're going to expand the family album, which ends in 1989, in a digital format. We're going to pick it up on New Year's Eve 89-90 and create a living family album that will go on forever, like the music. That's what Phil said when I ran it down to Phil a couple of years ago. I said, technology is advanced to the degree that I can do this thing with my book and make it come to life and add stuff and put video and blah, 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 and do stuff. And he said, and I said, it can be designed in this format to also go on forever, like our family. I mean, our family's going to go on forever. We're already having grandchildren and whatnot. I mean, so like us and our kids can build it and our grandchildren can be the administrators forever. And he said, so let me get this straight. The book will go on forever, like the music. And I said, yeah, that's the idea. It'll be our place in cyberspace, and the wheel will connect us all. We'll be able to bring all the information into one central place. It's pretty ambitious, but, I figure I can round up a volunteer army of deadheads that'll help me, and we've got plenty of technical people in our own scene that are excited about it, and some people have approached me about adding virtual reality to it and augmented reality, wherever the heck that is, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful time to be alive, really, for me. And I'm happy to be able to create something that'll be a legacy for my time on the planet and be built to last. And, I'm going to be appearing out at the Capitol Theater in Garcia's during Phil's Halloween run coming up here.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. And I'm also going to an event on the 8th in Connecticut, in Fairfield, Connecticut, called Truckin' with the Grateful Dead, Hippies to Highbrows. and it's a scholarly thing, which I've never been to one of these things before, and I'm really excited about it. David Gans is going to be there, and who everybody knows is an amazing radio host and a musician. And then Nick Merriweather, who's the archivist that's worked with the Grateful Dead archive for years, and Jeff Mattson from Dark Star Orchestra. And they're going to talk and have special guests and play music and all that. And so I thought, well, that looks like fun. I'm already going to be out in the East Coast anyway. I'll buy a ticket. So I got a ticket right there in the middle of the front section, and I'm really excited about doing that. So, and then after that, I'll be at the Cap on the 29th, 30th, and 31st, and people can bring their books to sign and talk to me, and I'll have a few things to sell, maybe some books and some stuff. And, I'm going to talk about the wheel and have people start signing up to be my beta testers in a couple of months, So we'll be rolling that out in the first part of 2017, probably in a big public way.
Well, we'll definitely we'll get into that more. I have to ask you. Yesterday would have been the 66th birthday of Brent Midland, and just for the record, I'm 38 years old, and I never ever saw the Grateful Dead. I've never seen any of their amalgamation bands, but yet the music drives me forward like nothing I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I'm curious if you could talk about, I remember reading a quote somewhere from Mickey Hart talking about him saying he probably was Brent's biggest critic when Brent first came into the band. And he said, he said over time, he really grew to appreciate how fine a musician he was. And I know, I just wanted you to talk about, if you could, when Brent first came into the band, how he handled that, and ultimately, how the rest of the musicians not just accepted him, but like when Mickey was talking about being a critic of his, what did that really mean?
Well, Mickey's a critic of a lot of things. I mean, I lived with Mickey for 10 years, and I know him pretty well.
I know you do.
One time he told Bobby Weir that he thought his guitar playing was rococo. And Weir says, rococo? Or no, actually, I got that story backwards. Oh, I totally got that one backwards. Weir told Mickey that his drumming was rococo, which meant that it was like kind of busy and all, like all that,
Sure.
And so I mean, it's not like everybody has an opinion in the band. I mean, the thing is, the keyboard position was such a hot seat in the band after Pigpen left. It's like it's not an easy job to be the keyboardist of the Grateful Dead and to follow in the steps of a guy like Pigpen. And Brent was a champion musician. Bobby loved him and played in another band with him before he brought him into the Grateful Dead, as far as I recall.
That's right.
I think it was called Silver or something like that. But
well, no, Bobby was the Silver Band was
Brent's band, right?
Yeah, right. And then Bobby, actually, what's really interesting is that he was in the Bob Weir band, and then Bobby was on.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, he was, but Bobby was on tour with Jerry Band, and Jerry was the one that went to Bobby and said, "I think this guy could be a good fit." But anyway, yeah.
Well, that should be enough for anybody. If Jerry says that somebody's a good player, like nobody ever would question that, because
Absolutely.
Jerry had an incredible ear and an eye for talent and people that were just amazing. I mean, look what happened with Keith. The person that came before Brent. I mean, it was Jerry. That was magic too. It's like it's just I remember when they had the audition piano players after Brent. I mean, how it is. It's the Grateful. The Deadheads know more about the Grateful Dead than the people that live with them. You have to know that. I mean, we know a lot about them because we live with them, but you guys know a lot more about the chronology of things and where. I remember when Brent first came around, he was just such a great guy. He had really long hair. He had this funky red pickup truck and this cute girlfriend that had hair down to her butt and curly hair. She was really sweet. And he was just sweet and nice. And, man, could he play.
Really play.
I mean, the guy was such an incredible player. One of my favorite songs. They're just wonderful songs. Easy to Love You. What was the one that he sang? His daughter's the one he made for his daughters. I Will Take You Home. I love that song. It's just so poignant and beautiful, soulful, sweet, and not, I mean, the Grateful Dead. Boy, there's a picture in my book that's in Susanna Millman's new book too. It was taken on their 20th anniversary of their at the Greek Theater.
Yeah.
And I got the backstory from Susanna about it because I always wondered about this picture, and it's that it kind of shows a certain aspect of the relationship between Brent and the band, and he'd been in the band I think for 10 years at that point or something, and they're all sitting together like it's like Bobby, Jerry, Phil, Mickey, Billy, and then there's this big space, and then there's Brent.
Yeah, I know that one. They're all sitting there like sort of answering questions.
Yeah. It's a press conference. Exactly.
That's classic shot. Yeah.
But Santa told me what the backstory. She just told me this recently. The backstory on that was that reporter that was talking to them kept asking about their experiences with drugs or this and that, and he was like going after him, and they'd already kind of deflected the questions a couple times, and he just asked them one more like really incredibly dumb question, and she said at that point all the band members, the five that are all sitting together, kind of all leaned into each other and looked at the guy. If you look at the looks on their faces, you go like, oh yeah, they're like, what the fuck do you want? Sort of, and like, So what are you after exactly? And I was like, kind of look. I mean, I know these guys, so I know that look. And she said Brent intentionally leaned away from them. Like he didn't want to be part of these answering these questions this guy was asking anymore. He just here. I'm like leaning away. So I thought that was hilarious. And
you know, are you still there, Jerilyn?
Gonna go.
Yeah, no, you're fading in and out a little bit on your phone. I just wanted to talk to you about the idea, like the the band gets irascible, irritated by hearing these questions on the 20-year anniversary. About, I think we might have lost her. Let's kick in that tune again and get her back on the phone, okay? There she is. She's calling back now. We lost you there for a second, Gerald.
To the left in certain parts of the house, you're done for.
Let me
so
ask
I'll
you.
Try to
it's fine.
I'll try not to weave.
No, it's. I want you to. We need. We're hanging on every word here, but I want. Okay. So this is an interesting point because I understand that. That that 20-year anniversary, and they're just getting perturbed. The guy's focusing on drugs and the impact of drugs, and I mean, I just would like you to, for those of us who were never around or who never saw the band, who live and die with the tribal sound and the tribal communal feel that the band had when you first went and met them in the Hippodrome Ballroom in San Diego. Can you paint the picture to this audience about the fusion of music and psychedelic drugs at that time, and how you'd listen, just paint that picture? Because obviously after 20 years, the band was burned out. They were tired of hearing questions like that, but the root of it came out of the acid tests. So can you talk about?
Of course.
Can you just talk about seeing the band at that time and ultimately?
Sure, of course I can. But more importantly, I can tell you something about a book that I'm reading right now called Heads, Heads. It's by an author named Jesse Jarnow.
Yeah, I interviewed him about 4 months ago.
That book, I would recommend that book to anybody who wants to understand the connection that psychedelics has to the entire counterculture and the tapestry that's woven between psychedelics, music, the counterculture, awareness, changing our thinking, after acid came. Okay, when we took acid, and back in those days, it wasn't like let's take acid and party. I mean, there was a serious aspect to it that was ceremonial, if you want to call it that. But it was we made sure our environment was clean. It was a sacrament, basically, kind of, back in the 60s, at least with the people I was hanging out with. And that was people from San Diego. We were a bunch of kids from San Diego that came to San Francisco in 1965 because we'd been involved in some pretty dicey activities down there. We were the only hippies in San Diego, and we were getting up to all kinds of stuff, running pot from Mexico and, whatever we could get into. Denny's, I used to do that with my friend. I was 16 or 17 actually when I started doing that because it was easy to do and it was fun. And we'd go down there and me and my girlfriend would just go through the Mercado with our kids, and the guys would fix the car up and we'd drive it back through. And so we were on the cops' radar, and it was getting weird for us. So we left and we went to San Francisco, where my daughter's godfather had a flat in the Haydash, and we got there in the later part of 1965. Christina was walking then. She was born in December of 64, and she could walk. And we lived in this big 5-bedroom flat on the corner of Beulah and Schrader in the Haight-Ashbury, right smack in the middle there. And, and the first time I ever took LSD was like that. We cleaned the house, we made sure everything was nice, we read the Tibetan Book of the Dead, we were ready for a spiritual awakening. And that's what it was all about. And through that spiritual awakening and the expanding of our way of thinking and our brains being opened up to other possibilities aside from what we've been told was important. I mean, it all started really back when Jack Kennedy got shot. when they killed our president, and I was in 10th grade, the gloves were off. Gloves were off. We were not going to be the people that our parents wanted us to be or anything that they thought we should be. We were going to be our own people because this was a horrible act, and then it followed up with Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy. I mean, all of it, And so when LSD came around, I was still in high. I didn't take LSD until I had a kid already. I was like 17 years old. I got in enough trouble for that in 1964 for getting pregnant because it was BBC before birth control, and so I was already been kicked out of high school for that. They didn't want girls like me in La Jolla High School, so I was babysitting for beatniks and in the town, and we had like maybe 2 in La Jolla, so it was all like very emerging new stuff and expanding consciousness and looking at things differently. In the Hopi prophecy, they talk about when the children of the white man start to dress like us and take our ways of respecting nature and this and that, then that'll be a time that we can deal with those people. Those will be the people that the white of this whole scourge. Like this was in the native religion, this has all been prescribed and prophesied and all that. So the Hopis saw this whole hippie movement as okay, they're here. Okay, so now things are going to change. Okay, and things have changed. And psychedelics were an enormous part of it. None of this change would have happened. Maybe the internet would have never been invented without psychedelics. So the connection of the music and the psychedelics and how it was already, when we opened the Hippodrome, we'd already come up here in 65, seen everybody, met all the bands, gone, kind of peripherally. I mean, I met Quicksilver. I met a couple of the Grateful Dead people back in 1966 at the Avalon Ballroom. I spent a lot of time at the Avalon Ballroom. We went there all the time. Once in a while, we'd go over to the Fillmore, but we mostly would go to shows at the Avalon, and it was just wonderful. Chet created a most incredible environment at the place. There was a puppet theater. There was a strobe light dancing area. It was like, it was just magical. It was so beautiful and fun. And so when I can't remember what prompted us to go back to San Diego in 1968. Before that, we went back in sometime in 1967. And my son was born in August of 1967 down there in San Diego. And we had decided to open this ballroom the next year. Sometime after that, sometime in early 1968, or sometime late 67, I guess it was, we decided to open this ballroom and found this roller skating rink downtown to open a ballroom. We wanted to do the same thing that they were doing up in San Francisco, and we started inviting all the bands down. And we invited the Grateful Dead, of course, and they came down on August 2nd and 3rd of 1968 and played for us there. My mom came, and she thought that Bobby was a girl. She said, that one with the long hair in the middle, she's really pretty. I said, Mom, they're all guys. They're all guys. She goes, really? Isn't that one in the middle with the long hair? He's so pretty. I said, no, it's a guy, Mom.
It's a guy.
So anyway, and then I met Rock Scully, and I was telling him about our time in San Francisco. He said, well, if you ever come back up there, come and see me, and I'll introduce you around to people a little bit more. And so anyway, we did another event in December because, in September of that year, I think September, October, at the Del Mar racetrack. One of the guys that was in our group, his dad was one of the owners of the Del Mar racetrack, and we had to close the ballroom. We didn't make enough money to keep things going. We only had that thing going for 7 or 8 months or something, I think. But so anyway, when we closed the ballroom, we had to bail out all our bills. And so we talked to George's dad into letting us use the racetrack for a big festival, and we had everybody that we could get that had played for us that whole time: Steve Miller, the Quicksilver, the Grateful Dead, everybody. It was a big festival down there in Del Mar, and we did that. And then shortly after that, my husband and I decided to take our 2 kids and go back to San Francisco because we wanted to we wanted to be part of that and go up there. And so I came back up here, and I called Rock, and he invited me to a party where I met Chet Helms and in person. I mean, I'd been to his ballroom a lot of times, but I actually met Chet at the party, and we got to talking. And then he said, I'm opening this ballroom out on the Great Highway. Would you be interested in helping me? We thought, you have a lot of experience now. Why don't you come and help me? And so I went to work for Chet out at the Great Family Dog on the Great Highway, and I got to know the Grateful Dead people even better. And it was like those times. Rosie, I went to an event last night with Rosie that Rosie McGee did a presentation of her book, which is a wonderful book called Dancing with the Dead. And all of us Grateful Dead authors support each other. I go to Gans's events. Like Susanna's got a new book coming out, Susanna Millman, and she was there at Rosie's event. And Rosie got asked a similar question about, what do you think the impact of all this stuff is on today's life? How do you think that what you guys experienced back in the 60s and with the LSD and the ballrooms and all the stuff you did, the adventures and all that, how do you think that translates into like now everyday life? Has it made a difference? And absolutely, like I said, if you read Jesse's book, you start to understand that the integration of psychedelics in the music and in this culture and in the technology and all of that. And a lot of Deadheads are the people that developed all this stuff. There's something about the Grateful Dead music that attracts a fairly high intellectual group of people. Or like there's so many Deadheads. I belong to a group called Wall Street Deadhead Networking, and it's a Wall Street Deadheads. And they found each other. A girl named Deb Solomon started it because she would find people on Wall Street with like a Jerry tie-on or something like that. And she's probably about your age, I think, too, actually. And that's the thing. I mean, this is a generational situation. It's not something that just happened in the 60s and then died out. It's carried. That's another
the problem. I'm with you. But the Sandoz acid was about as pure as it can get, and.
Well, that's Sandoz. What about Owsley acid? That was Sandoz. I don't even hardly know anybody that had these Sandoz acids.
Right, but I mean, like that was even so. Owsley's stuff was so pure. Anyway, I appreciate that. Let me ask you a question about. Truthfully, this is more of a technical question. Can you explain the roles of the drummers? Because a lot of times. Here's the thing. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I'm inside the soul of this tribal group, and I know, even though I never saw them, but to me, it's like Mickey is like. You obviously were with him intimately in the 70s. I've interviewed everybody from the Digger Rhythm Band. All right, so I know he was. He was
really all of them.
All of them.
Wow.
Except for George. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you really grasp how much I've been woodshedding on this. Like the thing is,
wow, I'm impressed, man. I'm gonna have to use your talents for the wheel.
Absolutely, no, and I'll get you. Well, I don't know where Jordan Amarantha is, but I've gotten everybody else. Here's the thing.
Jordan passed away.
He did die. Okay, I thought so, but I've gotten everybody else, and I'll help you with that. But I want.
Well, I don't need help. I talk to those guys all the time. Okay. I helped. I cooked for them the whole time that album was made. I'm an intimate part. My name's on that album. I have credits. I have producers points on that one. So I know the Digger Boys. You forget I lived with Mickey for 10 years. That's why I laugh when you say, "What's the role of the drummers?" What do you mean? What's the role? Of the drummers?
Okay, no. Let me.
They're the drummers. They hold down.
Hold on. Let me just get it out here. I have a tremendous amount of material here that Mickey from New Riders of the Purple Sage, going back to even the Grateful Dead. That Mickey could not keep time. He was a tribal rhythmist. He's a percussionist.
Mickey's a percussionist.
Right.
I was just going to say, Mickey's a percussionist. But he can keep time if he wants to. It's not his job, though. That's what Kreutzmann does. Kreutzmann's the king of the backbeat, man. Billy Kreutzmann's a rock-steady, freaking awesome drummer. They both are. And they complement each other in the most incredible way possible. I mean, they're just astonishing. It was like marriage made in heaven when they met. It's like that was talk about magic, man.
Can you talk about can you talk about especially? This is so what I want to know about is that especially when the Beast came in when they
was because of Apocalypse Now. That's how that got developed. Francis wanted Mickey to do a percussion soundtrack for Apocalypse Now, and so
I know my question is that can you talk about how much time Billy and Mickey would spend themselves? I understand the Dead they didn't like the R word rehearsing. They'd get up on the bandstand. They basically worked out new tunes on the bandstand. But when they were off the road and Mickey and Billy were trying to communicate musically, can you paint the picture of how they would work together? Would Billy come to his barn and they'd work together on things? How would that work?
Well, basically, they play a lot. They just play a lot. So that's all they do is play. Those guys. They don't, the Grateful Dead are working musicians, and if they're not sleeping, they're playing music pretty much. So that's why it's not like rehearsal's a bad word. It's they're just too busy playing to practice. They don't have to practice. They're too busy playing. They don't need to rehearse. They just play. They play all the time. And music's like Jerry. That's all he woke up. He would play. I mean, I never lived with him, but the guy did nothing but play. Right. I lived with Mickey, and I know for sure that that's all he does is work on music and play music and into music. I mean, that's how he became one of the worldwide musicologists. Music is he lives and breathes music. All of the Grateful Dead do. That's their life. That's what they do. And I can't imagine them doing anything else. So they their time together working stuff out. Mickey's constantly thinking up projects to do, always has been. I mean, it was endlessly fascinating being with him and working with him for all those years. And Billy's one of the better guys at learning, kicking back. He actually knows how to relax a little bit when he's not on the road, but he works very hard and they're happy. They're lucky that they feel like they're blessed, I think, That's just my opinion. I mean, that's how I feel about the whole thing. I feel like I've been blessed to have this life and be on these creative people and, have so much fun and actually make a living at it. Wow.
When did you...
how cool is that?
Oh, no, I mean, talking to Jerilyn Brandelius here on the Jake Feinberg Show, when did you first meet Lisa Midland?
Oh, well, when she came with Brent, how we meet all the girls pretty much when they when they show up with the guys. And she's just the sweetest little thing. She's really been always a dear little friend. She's just sweet. She's a nice, sweet girl. And, when Brent brought her to, probably to the show or something the first time I ever met her, and then she became part of our family, just like all the other women that the guys bring into our lives. I came into the Grateful Dead world and got to be close to the band because I worked for Warner Brothers Records, and I had a project that involved Tower of Power, and I needed a ranch, and I knew Mickey had a ranch, and I went out and talked to him, and that's how we became close and became friends and lived together for 10 years as partners and friends, and I had a family, and it was wonderful.
Well, I was going to say,
so we all come in. Lisa told me that she came to see the band, and then got backstage with some friends, and met them. And I mean, I told her this is one of the things I want for the family album. I want to ask everybody in the Grateful Dead family how they came to be with the Grateful Dead. Rosie has her story. She told us last night at Jammin' on Hate. I want to get her filmed. Somebody GoPro camera, and I'm going to start filming a lot of this stuff so that I have it for the family album. We'll just add it. I think it's more important to have videos of stuff than printed stuff, but the printed stuff's good too. But it's hard for people to write stories sometimes. It's pretty easy for them to talk, So
right. I mean, just curious. I wanted to.
I think that's.
This
yeah,
is
go ahead.
This is really important.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I mean, you've been through it. You lived it. It's incredible.
Yeah,
but the thing is that what was revelatory to me was that you talk about the Tower of Power thing, but Mickey was, when I talked to Sam Cutler, at the time heroin was a dirty drug with the band in 70, and after a lot of people assume that because of the Reverend Lenny Hart, I believe his name, the Reverend Hart, stole money from the band. That's why Mickey was kicked out of the band. But in fact, Mickey was on heroin.
Mickey was never kicked out of the band. Mickey was never kicked out of the band. That's a complete and utter falsehood. He was never kicked out of the band. Mickey was having a really hard time dealing with that, and he just left because he needed to deal with the fact that his father had ripped off the band. Nobody blamed him. He wasn't never kicked out of the band, and that's
no. I just want to finish. I just want to finish my point here.
Wait a minute. No. That's just not true.
Okay, Sam Cutler.
And with regard to heroin, Sam Cutler. Sam Cutler has his story, but I'm telling you that heroin came in around the band at some point, and some people got into it and some didn't, and so whatever it did, destructive things it did to people in our family, was very sad, but You know, I don't know. I mean, this whole analyzing all this stuff is sort of.
Well, no, but if I could ask my question, the question was that
Go ahead.
Did you work with him on when he was out of the band? He was removed from the band because of whatever.
He wasn't removed from the band. Don't say that. He was not removed from the band. Mickey felt bad about what happened with his dad. Who wouldn't? Okay, and so I didn't know Mickey at that time. I did not know him. I knew he was out of the Grateful Dead, and I went to talk to him about a project that I was working on for the record company that he was signed to, because I worked for the record company. And whatever
David Garibaldi from Tower of Power was at that function at Mickey's Ranch for Tower of Power, and
the whole band was there. It was a party for their record. It was a record release party.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying, so you didn't work with him on Rolling Thunder, though, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, I did. Rolling Thunder was what he was working on at the time, and when I went to him as his record company representative to talk to him about Tower of Power while doing a party out at his ranch, he said one of the things he wanted Tower of Power to do horn parts on his record. And so that was part of the deal. I made a deal with Mickey on behalf of the record company to borrow his ranch to do a party for Tower of Power, and there was the conditions of it were part of the contract that we had with him for the party included the fact that Tower of Power would do horn sessions for his album Rolling Thunder. He had just started to work on that album.
Right, They did
beautiful horn.
No. David was just saying when he came, there was a full food spread, but he saw his friends drinking, and all the drinks were dosed, and he made sure.
Oh, somebody dosed. What happened was no, we didn't do that. Somebody there dosed. They dosed the coffee pot for one thing. My children got loaded on acid that day. It was bad.
Geez.
We had little kids living out at the ranch with us.
Yeah.
But they had kids living out at the ranch. I didn't live there. I just came there for the party. I came out the week before to set things up, and I brought my daughter with me. And then there were some kids that lived there that lived with Mickey's friends that lived there, and so they were there. And right in the middle of the party, I'm going to talk about. I'm doing a book of my own about my life, but right in the middle of the party, the children came up to me and they were all crying because I didn't know they were high. I didn't know I wasn't high. I don't drink coffee, so I didn't drink. So I was fine, but the children came. I don't know why they got into it either. It's like, there was 200 people at the party. It was a big party, and so they came crying because they'd been sitting on some eggs and the egg cracked. And I'm like, what is wrong with you guys? And then somebody's like, I think the kids might be high. Like, what? What? My daughter was, I think, about 5 or something at the time. And it was just bizarre. It was Bizarroville.
Yeah, no, I'll send you the.
It was that party. That party was legendary. There's people that still talk about it. But Mickey, one of the conditions was that I bring everybody out there on a bus, and that they not that it was almost like we blacked out the windows. I was never to disclose the actual address or the location of the place. I had to rent a bus and bring everybody on a bus. Not everybody, but most of the people came on a big party bus. A good portion of the guests, and so they didn't, remember how they got out there or anything like that. It was all like hush hush secret and restricted because it was his home. He lived there.
All right, when I talked to Richard, I just am curious. You were with Mickey in '78 in Egypt.
Yeah.
And
boy, that was great.
Yeah. Let me just get the question here. The Richard Loren, Garcia, and the Godshows, they went down the Amazon. Mickey went in typical Mickey Hart fashion to this more remote tribal area to document indigenous rhythms. Where did you go with him on? Because I guess after the concerts, everybody kind of went off and did their thing. What did you do?
I went with Mickey all over Egypt. We recorded people.
Can you talk about that? Talk about a seminal moment from recording. I love the fact that Mickey's a tribal percussionist. Listen, let's face it, they brought in Spencer Dryden to do the New Riders albums. It wasn't, he loved that tribal sound. It drives a lot of my love of the early 80s is that sort of tribal sound while Billy's holding down the fort. But what can you talk about going to a village or going to some indigenous place in Egypt and the kinds of and how you taped it and just how it all went down?
Well, what do you got, like 5 or 6 hours?
Nope. Just one.
Well, you can read it. You can read about it in my book. For one thing, it's online at www.
Right. Well, we're on live radio now, so that'd be great.
I know you're on live radio. I'm just teasing you, but I mean, we went all over Egypt. We went to Alexandria. We went to Kamumbo, to Kamsa el-Din's village. One of the most special things, and we recorded musicians all over Egypt, in Luxor and Aswan and Alexandria and all kinds of places, and we had tons of amazing adventures. I could do an entire book about just that trip because it was so incredible, and the things that happened. The women of Kamsa's village made me an outfit, a dress, because I'd already been told, when you go into these rural areas in Egypt or probably any other country, so Egypt's the only really foreign country I've ever been to, but you need to subscribe to the ways that people dress and, their cultural mannerisms or whatever, so that you can not offend anybody, And so I came in, I knew I couldn't wear pants into this little village that we went into with and we went to visit Hamza's village. Hamza el-Din is he's like the cultural, he is the cultural, the cultural ambassador for Nubia to the world, and became a very good friend of Mickey's and dear friend of mine as well. And they played a lot of music. We did a couple of albums. Mickey did a couple of albums with him. I think I was part of one of them anyway, the first one. But so we went to his village in Aswan, and that's how I got the picture that's in my book of everybody on the ship. We called it the Ship of Fools, because some of the people, Donna Jean was on the boat, Jerry was on the boat, Alan Triss, Richard Loren, John Kahn. There was a lot of people that went on that boat trip, and Donna Jean told me that she thought it was going to be like a 3-hour tour, like Gilligan's Island or something, and it was like a couple days on this little boat on sleeping on deck with scratchy packing blankets and stuff. And we knew Sue Stevens got off the boat ahead of time and came up to make sure all the hotel rooms were ready. So we knew they were coming up the first cataract of the Nile in this boat, and so I positioned myself up on the deck at the hotel, and I have this whole series of these beautiful pictures, and they're flying the Grateful Dead flag coming up the first cataract of the Nile up into Aswan on this little boat. And I want to make a slideshow out of it at some point. But, it was a wonderful, wonderful time to be doing that. When we got to Hamza's village, I had on a jalaba, like a man's garment. That was the only thing I had that resembled kind of a dress, basically.
Right.
And I put it on, and the women were kind of twittering and laughing. And I said, why, kind of pointing a little bit at me. And I'm like, why are they doing that? And he said, oh, they think you dress like a boy. I said, why? I said, why? I have a shawl over my head, and I have this dress thing on. He goes, that's a man's garment. And so I said, well, can they get me some women's clothes so nobody will laugh at me? He said, yeah. So the women of the village cobbled together an outfit for me, which is the Nubian women wear these little smock dresses underneath. It's a little like a nightgown-y type dress underneath. But then on top of that, they put this beautiful lace dress and a lace scarf and a shawl, right, on top of this colorful dress or whatever underneath. And while they're in their houses, I said, how do you cook in something like that? Because it's all like lacy and drip with big sleeves and stuff. They said, oh, we take it off when we're in the house. You just wear them outside like this. You can't go outside unless you have this black thing on you, And so they loaned me some clothes, and then they went into the village and they bought all the lace to make me my own outfit. And the women of the village stayed up all night sewing a beautiful, beautiful outfit together for me. This elaborate dress with several kinds of lace on it. Trim on the sleeves was one kind, and then the shawl and the scarf. They made it all by hand overnight in the village. So
Wow.
The next day I had my own outfit. That was amazing. That was amazing.
I love, that's the Jerilyn Brandelius story that I want from. I'm so glad you were able to share that.
No, and you know what? The other thing they did that was a trip. It was very hot there, and so we realized pretty quickly that we were only being taken to houses in Hamza's village where they had electricity, because they had a fan that was following us around, a little oscillating, a 17-inch fan. And so finally we said to them, "Hey, Hamza, tell them that we live in a place that's really hot called Novato, California. It's like 90, 100 degrees all the time there. And we want to go to anybody's house. We don't really want to just go to the houses where they only have electricity." So, so then we started to get to visit everybody in their houses because not everybody had. It was terrible what they did to Hamza's people. They moved them off the Nile to build the Aswan Dam. There's a whole book that was done on it that was called the land no one knew, I think, or something like that. And it's all about the flooding of Nubia and the flooding of the temples and stuff like that when they built the Aswan Dam, and the relocation of 250,000 people off of their ancestral lands onto this other place called Kamumbo. It was pretty sad story, but yeah, it was amazing. And the recordings are just, I think Mickey's released some of it, music from Egypt thing. I can't remember what that album's called, but yeah, it was incredible. The whole trip to Egypt with the Grateful Dead was incredible.
We definitely need about 5 or 6 hours with Jerilyn.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like this morning, I talked to John earlier in the week, and I reached out to him this morning and reminded him of our interview, and he let me know that he was not feeling actually very well this morning, and that he was being transferred, like you said, to a new facility, and so I love John Perry Barlow, and I
who doesn't, man?
And I was hoping you could talk about the first meaningful interaction that you had with him when you first met him back in the late 60s or early 70s, and if you could talk about a great John Perry Barlow story.
Oh, let's see. I don't know if there's not. I want to tell the story worldwide of how I actually met him, but I met him at Weir's house in 1971. He was visiting Bobby, and I met him there at Bobby's house, and and that's kind of how our relationship went from there. Barlow and I have just always been good old friends ever since we met at Weir's house, and over the years we've had a lot of encounters, and I've never been this close to him as I am now because I've been hanging out with him a lot the last year and a half, just trying to encourage him to get through this. It's been really hard. He's a freaking fighter and a champion, and he's one of my personal heroes, actually. So, I just am so thrilled to be able to have an opportunity to inspire him and help him and give him all the love that I can. He talks a lot about how he has a friend named Gilberto Gil, who Barlow considers as sort of an expert on love, and how this whole thing with his toes started was because he was stomping around the Atlanta airport looking for a flight. He was trying to get a flight out so he could make it to San Francisco for Gilberto Gil's show. Barlow has been out he's been putting a project together for the last 7 years called Algae Systems, and it's a new technology to help deal with human waste and turn it into other things. Like in this particular technology he's got, turns it into fuel, fertilizer, and water. I mean, that's unbelievable technology. And so awesome. He's been working with this company for 7 years. They have a operating, prototype down in Alabama or something like that. So he's traveling a lot doing that for a long time. And this particular time he's in the Atlanta airport, and I guess his foot bothered him. I don't know. He just had some kind of something, but he wanted to get back, and he ignored it. So he got back. He missed the show, but he saw Gilberto Gil, and they spent the whole night talking at the hotel about how Barlow wanted to learn how to accept love. He hasn't been really great, I guess, at it. I told him, that's weird. I don't know. I guess some people do have trouble accepting love. So I keep reminding him that, as he goes through this hardship last time, I said, well, I know you might think this is weird, but maybe this is all part of you learning how to accept love. Maybe this is the cosmic lesson for you, that this is truly how you're going to learn to accept love, is to learn how to accept help from other people. He's a pretty independent old cowboy, and he's used to standing on his own 2 feet and not having to ask for help. And that's, I think, what's so difficult for him about this whole thing of the benefit and having to put it out there that he's been hit with these catastrophic expenses that have, I keep saying this could happen to anybody in America. We don't have a good medical system, and the insurance companies will fight with you for stuff that you need. He needs a lot of care, private care, 24-hour care, people around him that can encourage him and love him and help him to get through this. And insurance companies won't pay for that. they won't pay for the amount of physical therapy that he needs to get back on his feet. You know, and so he's been paying for it. He's been paying for it himself for the last year and a half, and it's made an impact on his financial life. And I encouraged him when I first came on board, because I have a special needs trust that I couldn't manage my life without it, without asking for help from people, because I am on SSI and Social Security right now, and I'm disabled. I cannot work. I can do stuff like talk to you on the radio and all that, but I can't hold a job, and Barlow can't work. He can't travel. He can't, you know, we're disabled. We're stuck. We'd love to be able to go out and earn our way and earn our keep in this world, but right now we have to ask for the help and support of people that appreciate what we do and what we have done, and that's learning how to accept love. That's part of learning how to accept love, I believe. Friendship, kinship, family, all of that is what the Grateful Dead embodies. And that's what I think one of the things that the fans feel. I have said so many people come to me and tell me that one of the things that attracted him to the Grateful Dead scene was the fact that people considered each other kin, family. Like they were willing to help each other, go out of our way for another person. There's a kindness and a loving spirit about the Grateful Dead scene that people are craving in this world. It's a cold, cold world, and they find a lot of warmth in the music, and they find a lot of warmth with the people that are around the Grateful Dead, and I think that's really what the secret sauce is.
Well, I just feel like we're beginning now, after 55 minutes, to really start getting into a groove together. And Jerilyn, as you move forward on your wheel, I'd love to be a part of it in any way.
Well, wonderful.
I'd love to
My dad lived in Arizona, you know, a bunch. My dad lived in Sedona, and he lived in Tucson. So I'm real familiar with Arizona. And my father's last wife was a well-known folk singer named Katie Lee.
Yeah, I read
who
that.
Lives up at, Katie Lee lives in Jerome. So I'm hoping to go visit her. She's getting up into her late 90s now, so
well,
I better hurry.
It's really an honor to connect with you. I want to wish you...
Well, I'm planning to come down to Arizona. I'm going to do a bunch of personal appearances in 2017, and I'll definitely come to Arizona, and I'll be happy to talk to you on the air in the next, you know, whatever, until I get there.
Maybe we'll even get you in the studio, you know, but that'd
be cool.
I do just want to say that, you know, we lost Brent Midland tragically, him and John Perry Barlow.
Yeah, drugs have taken a lot of people from us, including my daughter. Okay, my daughter had a drug problem for many, many years, and it's not exactly what killed her, but it sure didn't help her health any. Heroin is a really horrible thing in our culture, in our lives, and it's not just the Grateful Dead. Heroin is so prevalent right now in America. It's awful.
I just wanted to end by saying I love the fact that John Perry Barlow and Brent Midland, as Bobby and Barlow did, and Bobby will be paying homage to him tonight. They had a great collaborative partnership.
Not tonight. Tonight you mean Brent? You're talking about.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to finish up by saying is that John Perry Barlow and Brent Midland, along with John Perry Barlow and Bob Weir, great collaborations, writing, songwriting together. That's what's instilling, you know, love and leadership. And I'm not interested in the drugs. To me, it's like
good.
These are great cats. And so happy birthday, Brent Midland and John Perry Barlow. I hope we can reconnect soon, man. I hope you can learn to accept love, because that's all the Jake Feinberg Show is about. And Jerilyn, thank you so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I hope I didn't yak your ear off.
Well, when you listen back, this was heavy. I start to after an hour. I feel like we really started to get into a groove, but we'll do it again real soon.
Well, we will. We'll talk again.
Much love. All right.
All right, you too, man.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to let people know what I'm up to.
I'll be blasting out these stories all over Facebook. You don't worry about that.
Oh, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, cheers. Have a good one. Say hi to John for me.
I sure will.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Just heard from Jerilyn Brandelius on the Jake Feinberg Show, and we're going to be coming back with Ozzy